Tonight, we are going to have a special feature. We're going to be talking about, obviously, love, marriage, and more. The more part is like whatever it is in their life, something maybe entrepreneurial, maybe sports, maybe ministry, whatever, that will come up in conversation. So the first people that I'd like to come up would be Amarina and Amanda and Zeke and Dennis. Come on up, you guys. So you guys have seen them around, obviously mentoring this week, and you've gotten to know them on some levels, but now we're going to get to know them on other levels. So love, marriage, and more. That covers a lot of territory, and I would love you guys to just quickly say your name, say your age, and then we'll kind of get into a conversation. So why don't you start?
All right, my name is Dennis Esteban. I'm 19 years old.
And maybe just a little bit about yourself.
So I lead a national nonprofit, and I started that my senior year in high school, and so that's what I do now on top of school. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Amarina Galindo. I'm 18 years old, and I've been writing books for quite a while now. I'm looking to publish some of them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zeke Kemp. I'm 20 years old, and I'm going into ministry to become a pastor.
My name is Amanda Gonzalez. I'm 24. What are we saying, about ourselves?
Anything.
Oh.
What don't they know yet? Give them a little tidbit.
My passion. On the side, I've been doing training for a Tough Mudder. It's 10 miles and 23 plus obstacles. It's going to be intense, and I'm super excited and underprepared. Thank you.
Well, what I love to ask at the Love, Marriage, and More show and talk about is, Marina, you're still 18. The rest are in their 20. What you said you were 19, right? So 18, 19, 20, 24. Still, all of you are past high school. You're into your lives, just launching. So exciting. It's like the best time of your life. I know you just graduated college, right?
Oh, yeah.
Was it a bachelor's or master's?
Bachelor's.
Okay, so that's a big deal, 4 years of college. And, looking at the audience here, most of them are, around 18 and below, and all the way down to 12, 13. So we have a wide range of young future leaders looking on at you guys. You're like a step or two ahead. And they'd love to hear your heart about, really what would you tell your teenage self? I know you're still on the higher end of teenage, but let's say your 13-year-old self, looking back, what do you think that man, I wish I knew that at that age, and now you know it now? What would be that one main thing that you think a young person could?
The most important thing that I would tell myself is surround yourself with good people, right? Surround yourself with people who are not exactly like-minded, but are headed in the same direction as you and headed in that direction at the same pace. When I was younger, I was hanging around people just because, they were the cool people or, other people knew them. So I kind of wanted to be in that crowd. But I quickly figured out that that's not the way to go. And I had these dreams and I had these goals, but I couldn't elevate myself because I didn't allow myself to separate from them. So I like to say this thing that elevation requires separation, right? Because when you're separated from, the negative people, then you can better prepare yourself to walk in the purpose that, God has called you to. So that's the most important thing, is just surround yourself with like-minded people. Even with the story of the paralytic, 3 of his friends were the one that took him through the roof, right? And will your friends do that for you? That's what I always think of. Or will your friend just say, no, I'm not doing this, I'm going home. So that's the most important thing. Surround yourself with good people and, Christian community. So that's what I would say.
I love that quote, yeah. That elevation requires separation. Is that a Dennis quote? Or did you see that somewhere?
I didn't see it somewhere, but I just always say it. I don't know.
Yeah. If you had your notes, I would say write that down. That's a good one. Okay, Amarina.
I think the one thing I would tell my 13-year-old self is to not be so over concerned about fitting in. I felt really out of place when I was around that age. I think 6th grade is when, all my friends started to do things a little differently than me, and I recognized that, and I kind of didn't get why we were so different. I saw things differently, and they saw things differently, and I'd still hang around them. They were my friends. I'd grown up with them since kindergarten, but I think that their concerns were so focused on TV and just models and just things that I didn't find very interesting or relevant. So I think that the most important thing that I would tell myself is just not to be so over concerned about worldly things and more concerned about what God thinks about you and what you're doing, what He can do through you. I feel like that's the most important thing.
So talking about that, what you think was the greatest challenge, taking that stand as such a young teenager?
I feel like during that time, it was probably stepping out and probably stepping out of my comfort zone by helping someone else, as in, if they were being teased or they were just sitting alone, I had that compassion where I wanted to go over there and say, hey, how's it going? Just talk with them, and just be their friend. And I noticed that during that time, not a lot of my friends would do that, and that they wouldn't even notice them. And I would be the one who's like, hey, shouldn't we invite them over here or something, So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. Is a couple of times I did have to get up from our lunch table or wherever we were and just get up and go sit with that one person who was alone, or invite them over, just overcoming that little fear. That's
amazing, because sitting right next to you, Dennis, a lot of you may not know what he said earlier, the organization that he founded. Will you talk a little bit about that? Because it's amazing. She's saying the exact heart of what it is that you started.
So I founded We Dine Together my senior year in high school. And that was really to combat social isolation in my school. Because at first I noticed that you can walk into the cafeteria and you can see, the race divide. You can see white on this side and everything else on the other side. You can see that it was, students from, student government on this side and the minority groups on this side. And I said, it should not, it's so crazy to me because, we say that we came so far, but really we have so much further to go. And so when I originally founded it, it was to bring people together. And what we were doing is we were pulling from the different social groups. But then one thing that I realized was there are many people who don't have a social group. So I went to Boca High with 3,400 students, and lunchtime all at once, if you didn't know anybody, you would be sitting there by yourself, and especially if you were a new student, because I was a new student before. So I like to say that the We Dine Together Club for a new student is a welcoming committee, or someone that's isolated or has been bullied, it's a safe haven. But for the school itself, it's a catalyst for change. Because, like I said, relationships are the most important thing in our lives. And I even looked at all the other bullying and anti-bullying organizations. There were so many different organizations, but the numbers kept rising. So I'm like, this makes no sense, right? All these organizations, but the rates of suicide are increasing, right? The rates of depression are increasing. So I wanted to be, I always thought, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? Because I didn't want to just watch other people go through something that I've been through. Instead, I wanted to, bring purpose into the pain that I had. So that's the whole heart behind the organization. And since that, God just blessed it. We're in over 44 states now, when we have clubs in over 3 countries. So.
And how old were you when you started that?
18.
Okay, so how hard was that? Because we talk about doing hard things, and hard is the new fun. And I'm sure you had a lot of fun with that hard work.
Yeah, so the hardest thing for me was sticking it through.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that, when you're in that space, you hear a lot of hard stories, and you don't want to wake up every day. We say we wake up every day and we love what we do, but it's not always like that. Sometimes you have to go in and you have to go consult people, or you have to talk to people who are going to say, hey, I wanted to end my life, and these stories all the time. So the hardest thing was just knowing that God had a plan and being obedient to that plan. And since we were obedient to that plan, we see Him blessing us in ways that You know, we couldn't even, just in January, we had a Super Bowl commercial. And we did nothing to deserve that. We did, like, it just showed up.
We Dine Together was a commercial during the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my point is that it's not, we didn't do anything to deserve that really, but God just blessed us because we were obedient with the little that he gave us. And we were satisfied with where we were at enough to say, hey, it doesn't matter if we're going to be on TV or if we're going to, you know, be on CBS, ABC, whatever, but we're going to do what we do because it's not what we do, it's who we are and it's what we believe in. So
That's exciting.
That's the whole.
All right, let's hear from Zeke.
Oh yeah, you can clap for it.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough. I'm just kidding. So, what would I tell myself? I definitely would go with timing, God's timing for sure. I feel like my younger self would try to rush into things. Like I just wanted to be so successful so fast. And it's crazy because the devotion that we did this morning was when Saul anointed David, right? So like I was telling the people that are in my group, so Saul was anointed king 40 years before he actually became king. So it's crazy how in life, like we're anointed, we know what we want to do, we have a purpose, but we don't have it yet. And like for me back in that time, I would be like, no, I need it now. But if I would have had it now, I wouldn't have known what to do with it. And like I tell people all the time, it's like if your parents go out of town and they leave you breakfast and dinner, and then you eat the breakfast and dinner before dinner came, you received the blessing too early, and you misused it. So I believe that God's timing was very crucial, you know. Besides that, like he said, just surrounding yourself around the right people. I feel like I was in not so much bad groups because I hang around him and whoever he hung around. So like if I had a downfall, he was my downfall. So other than timing, I think, let me honestly like think about that because I want to make sure I'm giving you like a good answer. I think that's it. Just like not giving up too easy. I know a lot of things that I just tried, and if it didn't work out, I would just quit. Like anything. Like I tried school, I wasn't feeling it, I dipped. Got a job, I didn't like it, so I left. Did this, I didn't like it, so I left. So it's like sticking through it and like doing hard things. So, and I just want to say that what Dr. Dreff and Dr. Andrea have going on at this camp is very, like something very special. I never pull out a notepad to hear someone else speak, you know, because like I'm a speaker and like I deal with pride. So I'm thinking like the next guy has no way he's better than me. But when Dr. Jeff and they get up there, it's like I run to the stand to grab like a notepad. So because the information that they say is like so crucial and it's detrimental to your success. So I just want to thank you guys for that.
I had issues, so I'd be like, girl, you got issues. That's probably the first thing I'd tell myself. That was the question, right? 13-year-old Amanda? Okay, cool. That stands valid.
I think next year we need to get a picture of the 13-year-old's version of you guys, you know? Put on the screen. Here you were.
Like I literally haven't changed. I was up like extremely tall and awkward, and now I'm 24, so it's like you're normal. So that's that. Another thing that I would tell myself is definitely get involved. Like, don't take your soul as yourself as seriously as you take your soul. I think that a lot of times I would be so like, because I grew up in like a Christian home and stuff, and I think I would take myself seriously because I was trying to take my Christianity seriously, but I didn't understand how to play. And
what do you mean by that? Explain that a little bit more.
I think there were a lot of opportunities to like get plugged in when it came to if there's like one of those like corny church plays that you're like too cool to sing in because you're just too cool for anything, and like they have everybody in like VBS like wearing the shirts and doing all like the dance moves and stuff together. Like I was just too cool for anything, and I just feel like I robbed myself of times to really be invested in and also invest in other people and just be in a community where it's just about play. Like it's just about enjoying life through laughter and just like hanging with people. And for me, because I grew up and I was just super serious about a lot of things, to me that was just worthless. Like I was just like, what's the point of laughter when you have books? Like it was just like, that doesn't make sense, Amanda. Like listen to yourself. Like I was my own logic and my own best friend. And so I think I would say, don't take yourself as seriously as you should take your soul. Because like, yeah, you should be intentional and adamant and unmovable when it comes to all things in holiness and following God to the best of your ability, trusting that his grace is sufficient. But at the same time, like, laugh, play, like, hang out. Don't be afraid to, like, I don't even remember the term, but just, like, learn how to chill. So, and I would still probably need to hear that sometimes nowadays, too.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what does that look like in your life now?
Okay, I want this to sound profound, but I literally just laugh a lot. Like, it doesn't, like, it's not necessarily even in context. Like, I just laugh. Like, I enjoy life, and I'll just have these moments where I just, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I enjoy it. Like, I'm not trying to, like, constantly solve an issue. There's a verse in scripture that I don't remember right now, but it talks about being carefree in the care of God. And I think because I actually believe that God is taking care of some major things that I was trying to solve when I was younger, because I didn't see God as capable, worthy, and desiring to do that in my life. Now that I believe that, I'm just like, man, like he's taking care of it, so I can just like go and have fun. Like I can actually chill, because it's one thing to chill like I did in school when you have like a paper to write. That's procrastination. Like I felt like I was chilling, but I had things to do. But now God is taking care of those things. So when I'm chilling, I actually have peace. And so it's like a different chill. It's an actual chill. It's a good chill. You should chill.
So let's go back, really quick. And so now we've talked to your 13-year-old self, and you guys are grown up, and you've lived a lot more years. I'm assuming you have a lot more fruit of the Spirit and emotional maturity like we talked about today. And so now, in your walk with the Lord, if you and I were just have a one-on-one conversation and I said, I'm doing this thing with young leaders and like, what was your passion to tell them? Like, did God give you a word? Is there like a burning thing that you would just be like, man, this younger generation, this? Is there something that you just really feel, besides the advice to yourself, something different? If it's the same, then great. But if there's something, that you really feel like if God gave me a platform, which he has given you a platform, what is that burning thing that needs to be said too?
All right. So one thing that I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that, as Christians, the most important thing that I ever heard is that it's not about what we do, it's about what Jesus has already done. Right? So then we know that we're walking our life and we're living our life not, for a victory, but we're living our life from a victory. Meaning that if you try to be perfect, or if you try to be the perfect Christian by yourself, you will fail, right? But it's about letting God take control of your life. Now, what does that mean? Because when I first heard that, I'm like, okay, I like that. But then it took me about a year to really figure out what that means. So one advice that I would give you is fill yourself with the Holy Spirit. And it's so important. I don't think people talk about it a lot, but because when you fill yourself with the Holy Spirit, it's like, you guys are too young, but like alcohol, right? Because the more you drink alcohol, the more alcohol has an influence on you. And then you start to say things that you don't want to say. You start to do things that you want to do. You start to have these emotions that you wouldn't really feel. Same thing with the Holy Spirit. When you fill yourself with the Holy Spirit, you start to do things that you don't want to do. You start to say things that you don't really want to say. And you start to love on other people. And you love people that you normally wouldn't love. So I think that's the most important thing, is staying filled with the Holy Spirit, whether that's through prayer, whether that's through the music you listen to, the people you surround yourself with. Just fill yourself in him, because once you allow him to work through you, he will do all the work. You just have to be obedient to say, hey, God, just use me. And I believe if you remain in that, then he will use you. John chapter 15, abide in me and I in you. So that's the most important thing. Like, that's the first thing that I always go back to when I'm feeling low or when I don't know where to go. Because our spiritual journey, it's not going to be just this incline. We're going to have bumpy roads, and sometimes we're not going to feel spiritually there. So instead of acting like we're there, let's just say, hey God, like I know I'm not fully there, but just use me. I give my all to you, and just fill me with your Holy Spirit. So that's the most important thing that I learned in this whole faith journey.
Well, give me a hand. That's something that we talked about on day one. We talked about the triune parts of our human being, that we have a body, we live in the body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit, and they all get fed. And what are we feeding them? And I like how you said it, because, we're either going to feed ourselves with, things that lead to destructive things or constructive things. And the Holy Spirit is, beyond constructive. It's incredible, right? And, you know that if you have the Holy Spirit in your life, and that's your fuel. It's the best fuel. Okay, Marina, how about you?
Wow, I had no idea what to say while you were talking the whole time. I was listening, but I was thinking. But I think what God is trying to tell me to tell you all is that, we all have friends, and there are moments where we may not have as many friends as we used to, or, friends may turn on us, or they just leave and we kind of grow apart. That just happens. It's a part of life, we make friends, and then we lose friends, and we keep friends for a long, long, long time, and then sometimes they just go away, and we don't know what happened or what went wrong. But it hurt me for a long time, because I was I was homeschooled, so making making friends, it's yeah. You feel me, yeah.
No, raise your hand if you're homeschooled. There's several.
Yeah, exactly.
There's several.
Yeah, all right. So you know what I'm saying. It's hard sometimes, to be so different from others. You're not always surrounded by people that you can call your friends. So, I think during my junior year of high school, I started going to a church just right across the street on Wednesday nights, and started meeting new people, and just, making new acquaintances. And I think that that definitely helped me that year, because I felt so alone. But then I became so reliant on them that, I was going to church and I was learning new things, and it was great. And I was surrounded by these great, people. We were all fellowshipping. But then, summer came, and they all went to their colleges, and they left. And I felt really, really alone. Like, what just happened? I just made these friends this year, and they're gone. So I think that the thing I have to stress most is that, people come and go, and, it's sad sometimes. And, I can think of countless times where I was just heartbroken from losing someone after knowing them for such a long time. But the one person who will never leave you is God. And, you hear this all the time, but I think it's definitely something that I wish I had heard during that time of, just feeling so alone, is that God will never leave you. And he's the one who orchestrates people to come and go, and when you need them most. So I think that, that's the most important thing, is just to remember that you're never, ever going to be completely alone, even when you feel it, because God is orchestrating everything in His timing, and He's got you. He's got you in His hands.
Joyce Myers, for those of you who know Joyce Myers, she explained it one time in such a way that I just took it to my heart, and I needed to draw on that many times, because that's happened to me. And she says that your life is like a train, and you're going up a mountain. And, the train will stop at certain cities along the way. And the doors open, and people get off, and people get on. And, the train keeps going, and maybe they have a connection to another city, or maybe they're going back down the mountain. That's not for us to have to worry about or manage. And it is sad, because it's like, wait a minute, come with me, we're going this way. And they're like, no, I'm not part of that. But the new people that get on are a part of it, and they are going to go with you, and they may get off somewhere else too. And that has brought me so much peace along the way, where, as I grow and elevate life and the different things that I do, people come and go, and it's like, how do you make sense of it? So that's great advice. Thank you so much. How about you, Zeke?
I would have to go with, for this generation, I see, like, if I go on my social media and I see, like, people younger than me, like, I constantly see, like, I'm grinding, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm grinding. It's like, all right, I get that you're grinding. But like to a certain point, it becomes stressful, you know? And I believe that this generation kind of like stresses themselves out, and they're constantly stressed. And they're thinking about, oh, if I don't do this and I don't do that for my future, I don't know where I'm gonna be. So what I would share with them is that if you constantly think about your death tomorrow, you won't be able to enjoy life today. If you keep thinking about the blessing, what you don't have now, you won't enjoy the blessings that you have today. So basically what that is like, for me, that was me too, because when I would like worry about like the most simple things, like school or like where I was going to go to college, and I was like a freshman, you know, and like stressing about I got to go to and it's like, calm down, like chill, like you got 3 more years to go, you good. Like if you keep worrying about that, you're going to stress yourself out. And the biggest thing about that is just like you just doing the groundwork and letting God move. For my Bible bangers in the room, just quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe that when Jesus was going to heal Lazarus, before he healed him, he told the people around him to remove like the stone. And I believe that's God telling us that if you can just do the small groundwork and remove the stone, I'll do the miracle, you know? So that's one of the biggest things I always keep in my mind.
So, I was trying to like stare at you guys in the face so I could remember who I'm talking to. You get what I'm saying? Because when you say like, oh, what do you have for the next generation? I'm like, oh, like, and I like go out into this wild abyss, but I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm talking to you guys. And so what I would say to you, something that I'm learning right now that I was learning when I was your age, and I will still continue to learn, I think it's one of the best pursuits you could ever have in your life. You're going to pursue a lot of things. You're going to pursue people. You're going to pursue jobs. You're going to pursue opportunities. But one of the richest and most rewarding pursuits you will ever do in your life, choose, you know, like if you accept it, is to pursue God. And how do you pursue him? I would say one of the most beautiful ways that God has provided us to pursue him is by trusting him, like by placing our faith in God. You're going to have a lot of situations that are going to come up in your life. And something I've noticed is situations are going to like come and go and change, and you're always going to have like that next difficult thing to do, or that next thing that you're trying to figure out your next step or what you should do. That's just going to be on the rotation. If it's not what, you know, friends am I going to make in high school, it's going to be what college am I going to go to. If it's not college, it's what job. Like that kind of stuff is just going to keep coming up. So you need something foundational to hold on to that's not going to change. And I believe that placing your trust in God is going to be your anchor as the ship of your life sails through many different things. It felt cheesy, so I just felt like I needed to just like show you that I knew it sounded cheesy. But what I would say is grab a Bible, not now. Grab a Bible, please. And check out Proverbs 3 where it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him. Acknowledge him. When you're praying about that school, acknowledge him. When you're thinking about that relationship, acknowledge him. You get what I'm saying? Anything, acknowledge him. And he will make your path straight. And he will make your foot sure. And he will make the decision clear. Whatever it is, just put it in there. like just put it in the machine of trust. It's not a machine. Don't quote me. That was weird. Don't hold on to that. But placing your trust in God is one of the best pursuits you will ever make in your life. And there are going to be a lot of things that you're going to pursue. So Proverbs 3, 5-7, check it out, base your life on it, and you're going to love it.
Let's give them all a hand. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, come down. Okay, so we're going to visit a little bit with two guys, two sports guys. Isaac, if you'll come on up, and Marco, come on up. And I'm going to sit with you guys. Want to sit there? Okay. Yeah, actually, will you go this way so I can look at you both? That's better. Okay, good. Well, here, you guys can share that mic.
All you.
So, last year, Isaac was with us, but we have a lot of new students this year. And last year we had, for those of you who were last year, Marco's older brother Pablo was here, and we've had David before that. So we're carrying on the Espindola tradition. Yeah, it's exciting. Isaac, I know you've been with us before, but we have a lot of new students, and you can never hear such a powerful testimony as yours too many times, I think. So just tell them your name and a little bit about yourself, and we'll talk about that after, but just introduce yourself.
Yeah. So hi, my name's Isaac. I'm 24. I was also homeschooled whole life, K through 12. And then I went to the University of Miami, studied sports administration, and actually played football while I was there. I graduated in 2016, and since then I've been working for this company called GovSpend, literally a couple minutes away in Deerfield Beach for about the past 2 years. So.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. Just introduce yourself.
Hey,
a little bit about what you do.
my name is Marco Espindola. I'm 20. I just turned 20, so that was terrible.
When was that?
Like it feels like heavy. Like I feel old now.
Oh.
And I play professional soccer. That's what I do.
Awesome. So it's so interesting when you hear from sports leaders because their world sometimes looks a lot different. Practices and in some ways fans, right? Groupies, girls that like you just because you play a sport. I mean, let's be real. It's true, And, it's a different life. I know you've lived away from home for a while. You were away at college. So let's talk about that. I mean, if you want to enroll also in what you would say to your younger self or what's burning to say to a younger generation, just, speak from your heart.
Sure. Gosh, there's so much that I can answer in that question. I'll start with just my briefly talking about my time away in Miami, and then go into what I would tell my younger self. But my time away in Miami, all through church, growing up, older friends who had been through college, I was always told about all the things that I would have to deal with, all the temptation, the girls, the whatever it is, like everything where you're like, hey, when you go away to school, go away to college, like this is what you're gonna have to deal with. Everything that you've been told, it's that, but it's 100 times worse. So I was told that like you'll have to deal with girls, but like what that actually looks like is way different level than someone saying, hey, you're gonna have to deal with girls, or to a girl, hey, you're gonna have to deal with guys, or whatever it is. So it's just a whole different level. So I would say just continue to ground yourself while you're in high school, and then going back to what I'd say to my younger self. How much time do I have?
No, just go.
Okay. So first of all, it's one of my favorite things ever when I feel like God has put something on my heart and then someone else says it, just because it's such confirmation that this isn't Isaac, that this is actually God, and that he's not only speaking to me, but he's actually speaking the same thing to multiple people. And so when Andrea had sent me the text message and invited me to come here and asking that question of what would you tell to your younger self, I started thinking and praying about that and wrote down 3 points, and all 3 of those points were just spoken about, which is so cool to me. So the first one is what Zeke talked about, and really just talking about calming down and slowing down. So often when I was in high school, I just wanted to be in college, or whatever the case may be. There's a Thomas Rhett song called 16, and it talks about when he's 15, all he wants to do is be 16 so he can have his license. And then when he's 16, all he cares about is being 18 so that he doesn't have a curfew anymore. And then once he's 18, all he cares about is going away to college and turning 21. And then the song ends, and now he's 25 and married and has a kid, and he says, and all I wish is I could go back to when all I cared about was just turning 16. And that's been definitely true for me. Like, I miss high school, I miss coming to summer camp, I miss college, but during all those stages of my life, I was just wishing to get to the next step. And so now I catch myself even now, like I'm working, I'm single, like I just want to have a girlfriend, I just want to be married. So now God's working on me like, hey, remember you used to wish other things and now you want to be back there. So I'm working to enjoy where I'm at and enjoy my singleness. And then the second thing was talked about by, tell me your name again? Amanda. I did have it right, but I didn't want to guess and be wrong. Was talked about by Amanda, where she said, cast all your cares on God and be carefree. And so that's something that I'm now also working on, and really just putting my cares on God and trusting Him, because I have so many that come up during the day. But I really just want to be able to give those to Him and live that carefree life and laugh more. And then the third thing was spoken about by Amanda again, and then also Dennis. And that's the verse that says, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all these things will be added to you. And Dennis talked about, all he did was he looked at something that was wrong with the world, something that was wrong with his school, and felt like, I think I can fix that. And so he obeyed God and did what, just took the small steps to go, I am going to do what I can, what's in my ability to fix this situation. And then God blessed that tremendously, and obviously has grown him so much. And now he's, I didn't even know, had a commercial in the Super Bowl, which is incredible. But so often in my life, when I think about money, when I go after money, or when I think about girls and when I go after girls, I don't get those things and just end up feeling empty and it hasn't worked. But when I seek first the kingdom of heaven, then I start seeing those other things show up around me. And even when they don't, it doesn't matter, because I'm so close to God that He's completely fulfilling me. So those are the 3 points, which was so cool that they were all talked about up here. So.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story and what my life was. And the thing was that when I would turn 15, I left to Argentina, and I lived by myself for 2 years. And then since then, I never came back home. And many of you are older than I was back then. And it was funny because back then I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know that you had to cook certain things. Like, for example, one of my first days stuck in my mind because I was super hungry. And I went out and I bought some rice, some eggs, and I just wanted some eggs with rice and just mix it all up. And I made it, and I was living my best life because it was starting to smell super good. I was super hungry. A game was on that I really wanted to watch. And I remember just putting in the eggs and then opening the bag of rice and then just pouring the rice in there. Little did I know that you have to cook rice and to be able to eat it. So when I sat down, I went to eat it, almost broke my tooth. I remember calling my mom. I was like, Mom, why is rice hard here? Why is this a thing? Because, a little side note, my mom would always cook the rice while I was out training, because I was homeschooled for a bit, because I trained pretty much since I was 12, and I would train 2 or 3 times a day. So I never saw my mom cook rice.
It was magical.
It was always in the fridge. And I just knew that I had to put it into the eggs, and it was a thing. But even though this is even though it's a funny little story, with this, thinking back on it, I see that sometimes we don't prepare ourselves correctly, and then we get frustrated with the results. Because I remember being super mad because I had to individually suck the egg out and spit the rice, and I was super mad because other thing that I didn't prepare was cooking before I was hungry, so I was already starving when I left to buy the ingredients. So you see how all this not preparing just kind of kills you. But then while you're preparing and while you're getting ready for your dreams, while you're getting where you want to get, enjoy the processes. Enjoy the different seasons in life. Because as, I'm so sorry, I suck her name. I'm so bad at it, I'm so sorry. There is seasons in life when you have a lot of friends, and there's seasons where you have no one. And there's just times where you just need to be consistent in what you are. You need to be consistent in what you're preparing yourself for. Because I know that when my dream was always to play soccer, and all I wanted was to be able to play professional soccer and sign my professional contract and get paid to do what I loved. But there was times where I didn't enjoy it. And I know for a fact that if I wasn't consistent and I didn't accept the processes, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because I know that I went through a lot of hard times, and I went through a lot of times where I didn't like what I did, just due to how the situations were. because we have a lot of things here in the States that we take for granted. But let's say I lived in Argentina for some times, across the street from, have you guys seen Taken? Have you seen when he like goes to find his like daughter and he finds the friend of the daughter and there's like a bunch of curtains, there's a bunch of girls laying down?
Yeah.
I lived across the street from one of those in Argentina,
Wow.
from the Korean mafia.
Oh my God.
So like, I had to live through things that I didn't like and that I didn't find attractive. I had to live with having to learn how to cook and I was prideful and I didn't want to ask and I didn't want to look on Google. So I ate raw noodles for like a month. But just as my man was saying, there's times where you don't like what you're doing, but you need to be consistent, and that's what's going to take you to where you want to be. And just as he said, I wanted to be professional as fast as possible. When I saw friends of mine that were being professional at 16, 17, but I understand for a fact that if I would have been put up in that place and I would have been honored by God, because I truly believe that it is God and it is not me, and it's His talents and they're not mine. And just as they said, because I think you guys said amazing things, I just did my work. I did what was in front of me. And God opened the doors. And God put me in places where I never imagined. But if you don't do you, and if you don't learn to be consistent, because when we're young, just as he said, I'm totally like taking your stuff, I'm so sorry. Like, we don't like stuff and we give up and we stop doing what maybe God put in front of us and maybe what God put us to do. And so like what I would tell my younger self is to like learn to be consistent and learn to work through the hard times and enjoy all those seasons in life and enjoy the different seasons, because not everything's good, not everything's bad. Because sometimes we get stuck on, like it should have been good forever, or maybe it's going to be bad forever. And so I would just tell myself to learn to be consistent and just learn to enjoy the different seasons in life.
Thank you. You know, being that this is the Love, Marriage, and More show, I do want to talk a little bit about how, you know, just that opposite sex attraction, wanting to date, wanting to stay pure. Like, how did you just handle all that with your walk with the Lord? And I mean, as a young man, you know, even a teenager, how old were you when you played football at UM?
19 through 22.
Okay, so, you know, a young man, and you're out of the house on your own for the first time, and UM football player, that's a big deal. You're living in another country, you know. Just talk from that level of maybe the hardest thing that you went through, and how did you have the resolve? Like, what was that thing that you were standing for that got you through?
It's a really good, really tough question. So it was definitely very hard. Say one of hardest things, I guess, that I've done, things that I'm the most proud of, is that I sit here still a virgin and waiting on my wife. But I don't know how open I can be. So it's like, just to give you an idea. So when I talk about my friends or my parents or people above me say hey, college is going to be hard. You're going to have to deal with girls. Thinking about dealing with girls. I've been around girls my whole life. What is that going to be? First night at the University of Miami. First night in my dorm. I woke up at 4:00 in the morning to my roommate having sex in the bed next to me. So that was my first welcome to Miami type of experience. This is what's going on here. And then
This is what's going on here.
yeah, and then throughout
Oh my gosh.
and then throughout my time there, I mean it.
Wait. We can't go. What did you do? How did you handle that? Wait a minute. Hold on. What did you do?
So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I literally just had no idea what to do but to leave. So stood up middle of the night, walked out out the door, down the hall, just laid down on the couch, in our like main lobby area by the elevator, and then about 15 minutes later had the most awkward like goodbye in the hallway ever as the girl walked out and down the elevator and then went back into my bed. So I had no idea how to handle that with my roommate, and like obviously just never something like that's not even something that I thought about. Like what, like, you know, there's a bunch of things I thought about. What am I going to do in this moment? That was not on the list. And yeah, and so.
Did you say anything?
So I didn't. I didn't say anything until after it happened the second time, and then after this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
So after it happened a second time, I just told my roommate, I was like, listen, you can pretty much get away with anything in my room, but that like really bothers me. Literally all you have to do is like wake me up before and be like, hey dude, can I have the room? I'm happy to leave. I just don't want to be awakened to it. So that's how I handled that.
That was good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good.
But in terms of like actual like dealing with stuff like that's, even though that's crazy and super out there and like makes for a good story, I guess, it's not like, that's not like at the core of what I like had to deal with there. Like at the core of what I had to deal with was like, I seriously don't see this as a big deal, but when I like would talk to a girl at Miami and she's like, oh, what do you do here? On the football team. Oh, that's super cool. Like, what position do you play? I play quarterback. It just like Andrea said, like it's not like a pounding on my chest kind of thing, but it just like for my teammates, like that's when it was like game over. Like that's all you had to say to a girl, and now she wanted to date you, wanted to whatever. And so, but thankfully, I have friends like Claudio and Maddie that you guys are going to have the opportunity to see tonight, and had parents who waited for each other and have been married for 26 years now. And I had people in my life that I was able to look at and go, that's what I want.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is how it's supposed to be. And then look at my friends at Miami that were doing everything under the sun and go, that looks awful. I hate that. That's disgusting. But if I didn't have people like Claudio and Maddie in my life where I was able to go, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like, then it certainly would have been easy for me to wander off, to go astray, to take part in all those other things. So
That's exactly why we do the Love, Marriage, and More show. Exactly. So thank you guys all for being a part of it. So important. But wait, before you're done, you know, you said you're sitting here waiting for your wife. You want to give that to her as a gift. What was it like being at UM? Like, did they know? How did that all play out? I mean, they're probably wondering, hey, dude, why aren't you, you know?
Yeah. So when it came out for the first time, like when my teammates originally found out that I was a virgin and waiting, I was called every name you can imagine. Like if you can think of a derogatory word or name to call someone in that scenario, I was called that. And it like, again, I'm so thankful for my foundation, for my friends and family, because if I wasn't as grounded as I was, it would have hurt me. But this is kind of crazy to say, it made me feel so good because I knew like you all are of the world, and so like literally Jesus says that, you know, they're gonna hate you. Like they hate you because they hated me first. And so it was literally just like, okay, this is like, certainly like there's a part of it, like my teammates, like this isn't good, this doesn't feel great. But like when I was able to actually think through it, it's like, I must be doing a good job. Like the people of the world are hating me, they're persecuting me. So I guess I'm doing the right thing.
Good, yeah, excellent, thank you.
Well, just because I told you to just throw it at him, I'm gonna throw it at you. And I think mostly for guys, I know this is also a thing for girls, But when I left to Argentina, I was struggling with pornography and masturbation, and I had a problem with my screen, but now this turned into a problem with girls like face to face, because I moved to a dorm where we lived with guys on the first floor, women on the second floor, and there was no one like supervising. And like what you lived through, I lived through many nights where I had to like sleep in a couch because I knew my friends were bringing over girls. I woke up many times to my teammates bringing in prostitutes as well. Wow. And obviously there's always that pressure of like come on, like get in on it with us, like come on, like this is what we do, like you're part of the team, like you're one of us. And that was hard for me. It was, like, I'm not gonna say it wasn't, and it's clear that it is, because this was something that had already broken my heart and had already molded my mind in like a perverted way due to what I had been seeing when I was younger. But even though I wasn't perfect, and even though I messed up in many ways, I always had like that limit of like, okay, like we're not doing this. Like this is something I want to give my wife. And it was hard because just as him, like in Argentina, like soccer is like everything. Like that's like the biggest thing. And I was playing in one of the best teams over there, and just as him, I would say like, oh yeah, like I play on this team, and they'd be like, no you don't. And like they'd look me up and like, yes I am playing on this team. And then you'd have girls just throwing themselves at you. And I remember once that one of my teammates woke me up, and he's like, hey, like come. And it was like 2 a.m. I'm like, yeah, like what's up? He's like come to my house. I'm like, okay, like let's go. Like I didn't think much of it. And when I got there was 4 naked girls just waiting for us. And so that's when you really got to be strong. You just got to be like, okay, like, that's just not me.
Wow.
And also just as a guy standpoint, and this just goes out to women, like we don't like easy things. Like at least I don't think. Like I think the thrill of being a guy is like going and chasing after your girl and chasing after that like girl that you want. And if it's too easy, I know when I was in middle school, I was like, God knows I wasn't the best, but like I would go after a girl, and if she was too easy to get, and she'd be like, oh yeah, like I like you too, I'd be like, ah, like. You know, like, and I'm not saying it's okay, girls? And I'm not saying like it's good, but like if the judger, we have a judger. I'm being real. I'm opening up my heart, and I'm being judged. Andrea. I'm just kidding.
No, but that's a very good point that you're making. And before dinner, we just came from a purity talk. Mm-hmm. And it's an important topic. It's another reason why I picked love, marriage, and more as the theme, because everything relating to love and marriage and relationships and dating, down to the clothing and modesty, is something that we have to consider. And we talk a lot at camp about being intentional. And if you just kind of haphazardly don't think about what you're wearing or how you act or how easy it is to let a guy kind of scoop you up, you're not being intentional, and it's good to hear, girls, I think it's good to hear a guy say they don't want something that's easy. They want something that's special, that's set apart and pure. And that's what they're going to bring home to their mom, and that's what they want to marry and give themselves as a gift to. So I'm glad that came up. It's good. So
I totally lost my train of thought, but
well, we were talking about how hard it was and what your friend did.
But then,
brought you to the house.
Contrary to like your version, thank God I've always been like very secure of myself, and like as soon as they ask me, they're like, oh, like Colo, because they'd be like Colombian, because I was in Argentina. Colo, like what do you like to do? Like how do you like to do it? I'm like, nah, G, like I haven't done it. Nah, like Colo, like you're playing. Nah, bro, like I haven't done it. Like I don't want to do it. Why not? I'm like, for many reasons, and I think one of them is because like it is a sin, and it is in the Bible, and it's a very like different sin because it's a sin that goes against your own body. It's not only like a spiritual sin, but then also just like I think it's really cool to be able to give like that moment to your wife, even if like not expecting her to do the same thing. Obviously, like that'd be nice, like that, and like that's what you want. But just because like that's what I want to give to my wife. And God was able to be so like cool and so nice with me, and he just gave me so much grace in the way that I showed it off and the way that I like said it, that I never got like stuff for it. Even though in Argentina like virgin is like actually like a cuss word. Like you do something stupid, they're like, damn, like you're such a virgin. Like that's really? Like something they'll say to you. Because like over there, if you're a virgin, it's because like you're stupid. You don't know how to.
Wow.
You know. So like that's the kind of like environment I was in.
How to wiggle?
Yeah, like you know.
How to salsa?
So like that's where I was living. So like if you're just like it kind of just like depends on how you sell it and just how like sure you are of yourself. And then just like a funny story like that came out at school, and one time I was just talking about it in a classroom, and like the teacher even stopped talking, and then she asked me, she's like, "Aren't you embarrassed?" I'm like, "No, why would I be embarrassed?" She's like, "I mean, like everyone does it, like you don't do it." I'm like, "Not really. I think it's super cool because like whenever I want, I can be like any of them,
Right.
but they can never be like me."
Exactly.
So it's just like in the confidence that you have in it, and if it's just something that you're determined to do, like you'll find a way to like sell it. And God, I truly feel that God will back you up and give you grace. And then I had many friends of mine that even though they had done it multiple times, and maybe they were the ones that brought in prostitutes to like our dorms and like whatever it was, even though we were super small, which was like crazy. It was many times that they'd be like, "Yo, like that actually sounds so cool. Like I wish I would have done that." Like it's hard, but like I wish I would have done that. So it's just I don't know. That was my
that regret,
experience.
yeah.
So that's
Okay.
just me.
Well, thank you. Give them a hand. Thank you guys so much. Oh, come on.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing that was just on my heart to share with you all, and anything that I share with you, it's because God's speaking it to me. But the first is anything that you're going through, someone else is going through. You're not alone. You're not the only one. Literally whatever that is. Like you can think, I'm so alone in this, and I feel that way all the time. Whatever my sin is, whatever my struggle is, it's like I'm the only one going through this. No one understands. There's a ton of people that understand, and so just speak it. Get it out there. Don't hold it in. The idle mind is the devil's playground. So when you just hold it in and you're not doing anything about it, that's where the enemy will just continue to speak lies. And then the second one is the question that God is asking me right now is, Isaac, what would your life look like if you didn't care about anyone's opinion but mine? And so that's my question back to you. If you didn't care about what anyone else thought of you, if you didn't care how many Instagram likes you got, if you didn't care about what anyone said about you, good or bad, and you only cared what does God think about me, when he looks at my life, is he pleased with the way I'm living? What would your life look like? And I'm working right now, each and every day, to not care about what anyone has to say about me, because people will always talk. So just tune your ear into God.
That's awesome. Thank you. Come on. Okay, so now we're going to get into talking about marriage and relationships and dating. So I'd love to have Claudio and Maddie come on up.
Wow, so are you guys ready for the boring part of this
Come on up.
thing?
You guys,
Oh
yeah,
my
go on
God.
one side. Come on. Yep, you guys go up.
We do
So-
not have a crazy Miami sex story.
Yeah.
My goodness.
No, you have an amazing love story. Amazing love
Yes.
story.
Yeah, we do.
And I invited Isaiah and Alana up too, because they are young and I feel like they're doing it right. They just began officially dating because Alana just turned 18. Isaiah turned 18 in September. And it's very exciting to see a young couple who is doing it right and, you know, caring about purity and honoring parents and all those things. So we're going to talk, and we're going to just, you know, talk about love and marriage. So let's start with your story. I love your story so much, and my boys hear your story all the time. I constantly remind them of your story. And some of them here, who has ever heard Claudio and Maddie? Who was here year one? Well, I know you have. Okay, wow. So look, all new. No one's heard your story. So we have to hear the beautiful, like the strict Cuban family over here, and then your family's different, and yes, all that stuff. So take it away and just talk about
Okay,
how
so
it all
my name is
happened.
Claudio. Nice to meet you guys. Maddie and I met.
Tell your version and then my version.
What's my version? I don't even know what my version is.
Should I tell my version?
Yeah, tell your version and then
Okay.
and then we'll switch.
So my name is Madison. I'm this guy's wife. So when we were like 13 or 14, Claudio and I met, and my best friend at the time actually was like in love with him. And I was like, that's so gross that you like him. He's so gross. How could you do that? And then I found out, like weeks after we met, a mutual guy friend of ours came up to me and was like, hey, Claudio told me to tell you that he likes you. Do you like him back? And I was like, but my other friend, like, what a grand betrayal. Like, it was so Shakespearean. And so
I forgot I did that.
yeah, smooth. So for years and years, we became really good friends, and I kind of knew the whole time that he still liked me, and I liked other guys. And he actually told me years later that when he saw me like other guys, he was like, that's so cute that my wife thinks she likes him.
It's never going to work out.
He was like, that's not gonna last. And we became really good friends when we were about 16 years old. We had a really, really, really close friendship where we were hanging out one-on-one. He still liked me, but I liked you, but I like super made it seem like I didn't. And we were hanging out one day, just me and him, and we were eating ice cream. And I had at the time like been going with his family to their church for Bible study on Wednesday night. And we were actually just talking about this the other night. His way of asking me out was being like, hey, it's kind of weird that you keep coming with my family to church because everyone thinks we're a couple. And I was like, oh, I guess I won't come to church with you anymore. And he was like, yep. And so we stopped hanging out for a while.
Why did you tell that story?
Because it's the little things that really paint the colors. So then, years later, we were graduating high school, and first of all, at our high school graduation, because we had always been good friends, and our high school graduation, I was like, oh, Claudia, take a picture with me. We're graduating high school. And he was like, okay. And we took a picture together, and then he walked away from me, and
This was like a movie, pretty much.
I've never felt this before, but I had a physical pain in my heart where I was like, wow, I really don't like it when he walks away from me.
The
Like,
world got dim.
and it was just him walking away in his graduation gown. Nobody else in the world was around me, and I was like, he's walking out of my life. So I like Facebook DM'd him like, hey, congratulations on your graduation or whatever. And he was like, oh, we should hang out before, we go our separate ways. And I was like, okay. And we hung out, and he told me that I was beautiful. And I was like, oh, okay, good, he still likes me, because now I really like him too. And then a month later, I'm telling you, well, no, this is really my side. Anyways, a month later, I was out of town, and I came back in town. It was the 4th of July, and he was like, oh, welcome home. I want to come say hi to you just for a quick second. And I was like, okay. And he came up to my front door with this like huge bouquet of roses or flowers. And he hugged me, and I felt his heart beat like on my chest. It was like, and I was like, oh, he really likes me. And that was when we were 18. We had just graduated high school. It was like a month after we graduated. And he was like, Madison, I've always had feelings for you. Like, I admire the person that you are. You're so beautiful. I want to pursue a relationship with you. I want to hold your hand. I want to like take you on dates. And he hit this huge, beautiful soliloquy. And I said, okay, sounds like a plan. And the rest is history. How was it for you, babe?
Well, pretty much as embarrassing as that. No, I mean, that's pretty much my side of the story, too.
Talk about how you loved me the whole time.
I did like her the whole time, and I legitimately, from the moment that I met her, probably a few months after, I started praying for her from that point.
Yeah, this will make it easier. Oh, yeah.
Future husbands, a lot of marriage is being interrupted by your wives. Just FYI.
Yes,
Take that
learning
with
to
you.
communicate is key.
Learning to be chill with being interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
No, so you asked
Why
me.
is Jeff the only one laughing at that? Oh my goodness. 20 years, baby. 20 years. We're
This
coming
is-
up on 4, so
Almost 20.
Almost, yeah.
Feels like 40. This is just really cute, and I just want to say, you asked me to date you when we were 18, but then on my 19th birthday, you told me that you loved me, and then on my 20th birthday, you proposed. Okay.
Oh yeah. 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 punch. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my version of the story. At 14, I met her. I thought that she was gorgeous, obviously. And then a few months after, I just started praying for her, and ever since then, I loved her all through high school.
No, but tell the story when you were at J-Rob. Okay, I'm going to tell
what
the story.
Okay. Well, okay, so I was at this camp. I wrestled all through high school. From the time I was 8 all the way through high school, I wrestled. There you go, one wrestler in the room. Woo! So I went to this camp for a month. That was just the absolute worst thing. I don't wish this experience on my worst enemy, honestly. Like, to give you guys an example, so we had 4 sessions a day, right? And like the morning session, what we would do is, this is like one thing that we did. We woke up and we ran out 3 miles. And I was in, like, they break you up into groups, and I was like in the fastest running group because, whatever. Because I'm pretty athletic. No, so I was in the first running group, and we ran out 3 miles, and then on the way back, they said, put somebody on your back. And you would switch off, so you basically ran a mile and a half with, like, piggyback somebody on your back. And that was session 1, and then you went to breakfast, and you had 3 more sessions throughout the day. So it was just, this camp was just, like, miserable. And then to finish it, you had to run 15 miles at the end of the camp. That was, like, the last thing that you did. So this awful experience, but actually, and maybe life lesson here, when you're going through that much of a fire and that much of a trial, it actually refines you. And through that, and I think...
Do you want me to tell the story?
You can step in here. But it actually, like, that I interrupted you now. That trial, like, was actually one of the, I don't know, more like pure moments of my life where I like realized, like, okay, that was probably one of the first times in my life that I wrote down goals. Like, okay, I know what I want to accomplish this year, and I know what I want to do 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And to this day, you can even ask Isaac, like all my close friends know that I have a personal list of goals that I keep that not only entail like what I'm gonna do and accomplish, 5 to 10 years from now, but also like daily. And this, I think, goes to some of what everybody's been talking about here, but like in order to, do something meaningful and to enjoy life, I know you talked about laughing, but like that enjoyment that you get out of life, at least for me, I feel like it comes out of those daily things that I can like say that I've done every day. I don't know, I'm rambling here.
I don't remember the story.
Yeah.
Was marrying Madison on the list?
Yes, so it was, and he wrote it in this wrote it in this journal of his goals, and then he erased it because he felt like it was weird. He felt guilty.
You want to know the real reason? Hold on. You want to know the real reason I erased it?
Why?
Because I knew I was going to get home, and I was like, crap, what if my parents read this? So then I was like, all right, because I was like, I want to show my parents like this cool, like all the things that I wrote down throughout camp, and I'm like, I'm going to open this up, and all of a sudden they're going to see that like marrying Maddie is like number 1 on my list. And so
Would they have been surprised?
No, they
So
they
talk
knew.
about your parents in this whole journey and how they played a part, or how much.
Isaac has a question. What's up?
I just wanted to fill in 2 blanks in the story that I feel important.
Okay, go ahead, man.
It's a group story. There's some points that I heard when you spoke the first time that I haven't heard yet.
So I have had the pleasure of knowing Claudio and Maddie since we were all 14, which, as I was thinking about in the chair, like that's 10 years now, which is insane to me because it like feels it does not feel that long. But a couple blanks that I wanted to fill in because like Claudio talked about and Maddie talked about how since they were 14, like they were friends, but Maddie was constantly liking other guys, and Claudio was like, oh, that's funny, like, but like that was serious, like Claudio knew, and if I'm not mistaken, first like prayed for Maddie specifically by name for every day Close to it.
Close enough.
Yeah, so
That
close
sounds
enough.
good. We'll go with
from,
that.
from like the time he was because I'll pray for my wife, but Claudio, from when he was 14, close enough to every day, prayed for Maddie specifically by name. And then the second thing is, so growing up, like all through high school, which you all are in, so like high school guys always talking about high school girls, and we played this horrid game, which none of you should play, but like the hot or not kind of thing. And so like always like giving a list, like who are our top like 5 girls or whatever the case may be. So like my friends and I were always giving like basically the question was like, if you had to marry someone today, like, who would it be? Like, top 5, top 3, whatever. And so like each of our guy friends like always had this list. So for me it's like, all right, well, Keely's first, like Grayson second, like then Emily, and then like I'd always have like this list, and that list was always changing. But whenever we got to Claudio, we always hated playing the game with him, because literally since we were 14, we'd get to him and be like, all right, Claudio, what's your list? And he'd be like, Maddie. It's like, all right, well, we know, but who's next? He's like, Maddie. Like, Maddie's my wife. Like, that's who I'm going to marry. Like, there are no others. And so it's just crazy that, like, that was 14, and now here they are 10 years later, married for 4 years. So, yeah, anyways.
Isaac's one of my best friends, by the way, if you guys didn't know. He spoke at my wedding. Yeah. Okay. Should we hand over the mics now? Yeah, we've talked too much. Go ahead.
Can you ask the question again? That was a long time.
Well, for you guys, what I would say is, kind of like, because these are a lot of your peers, where are you coming from as far as like the choices you made, your inspiration to stay that, how, what kind of boundaries have you made, how are you doing it?
So I'll speak first. So basically, we've known each other for almost 3 years. We'll say 3 years. It's been like 2.5.
Honestly,
but we'll round up.
I'm pretty sure. Wait, hold on. We could say how we met. Do you guys want to know how we met?
You have a question? Okay, how do we meet, Alana?
Okay. If I remember correctly, and since I'm the girl, I remember everything. Pretty sure it was November 15th. No. Yes. When was homecoming? It was then homecoming, 2016, November 27th.
What time?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was like nighttime. And this was like, I literally I broke his heart on homecoming. It's going to happen. No, just listen. So like what happened is I had no idea who he was. I like saw him on Instagram pictures and stuff, and I was like, oh, Isaiah Hazim. I feel like I just knew him because he knew all of my friends, like my best friends. And when I went to homecoming, I met him for the first time because I had already known Luciano. I'm pretty sure you guys know who he is. And they ended up talking to me about their whole family tree. And I'm like, oh, you guys are like kind of related. Cool. And I was really confused. I thought they were like brothers. I have no idea. Anyway, so we were dancing on the floor and everything like that. He asked me to dance, actually. And when I reminded him that, he's like, oh, wow, I actually would have never done that. And I'm like, wow, I must have been really special, clearly.
Very special.
No, but listen, I broke his heart. We were taking homecoming pictures, and I took a picture with Luciano and not him.
I was standing there, me and Luch and Alana walked up to the homecoming booth where they set up everything, and I was standing with Luch, and they both walked up to go take a picture, and after they're done to take their pictures, I walk up, and Alana just walked right past me.
Yeah, I walked right past him. I
Well,
was like, oh, thanks, Luch, for the picture, and I'm
Luch,
like,
do you
oh,
want
they're
to take
so
a picture?
cute.
I was like, okay.
Yeah,
And
it
so
was
me and
kind of
Luch took a
awkward,
picture.
honestly. I still feel bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I don't have a picture from that day with him at all. Actually, there's a picture, like a group picture that he took, and I like photobombed in the back. That's the only picture I have with him. It's kind of sad. But yes, we met at homecoming in 2016, so I would not say it's 3 years. That's like an exaggeration. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
remember.
It's like 2 years and a half. It's like barely. We haven't even gotten like through like the
Oh,
or
shush,
one,
shush.
maybe 1, 2. Okay, it's fine.
Were you at the place at homecoming where you wanted to take a picture with her?
Yeah, he was standing. I'm pretty sure he was standing behind the
We literally
camera.
danced like the whole time together with our friend group because we met. We sat next to each other at the dinner table and we were talking, and I was like, oh, this girl's really fun, like interesting. And I recognized her because how she saw me on Instagram, I saw her on Instagram. When I didn't get to go
Beautiful.
to my friend's party, Chris's party, and I saw all these pictures from the party, and I'm like, who is that? I have no
I was
idea who that
actually
is.
wearing like a really ugly dress, and
I
he
didn't think
still
so.
thought I was like pretty. I'm like, okay. But yes, I know. So cute.
Yeah, I didn't think so. What I saw,
Let's go back to the original question.
Sorry, we got distracted.
How are you doing dating?
well, I didn't know that we were dating.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about dating. I haven't officially asked her to date yet.
No.
So
So I'm actually like,
she's waiting.
yeah.
So I just
Wait,
get down
hold
on
on.
I think that I have a lot of responsibilities, and so does Alana, and that I think we have like the rest of our life, or like however long, to figure it out. So I think that it's responsible to work on ourselves first, even though we do like each other. It's responsible to work on ourselves first before rushing into a relationship, because you have family problems, you have school problems, you have whatever, and I know that those things, if you bring into a relationship, it can really mess it up prematurely instead of fixing those things before you walk into a relationship.
I agree. I think like the biggest thing, like exactly what Isaiah said, like because when we started liking each other, like I was still 17 and he was like just turning 18, and his parents like wanted him to focus on school a lot and just like their relationship. And with me, like I know I opened up with you guys like earlier today and saying like I struggle with my relationship with my parents, and like we even talked about it, we've prayed about it, and like we wanted to make sure that we weren't just like only focusing on each other and forgetting about like our family. And when we first started liking each other, like that's kind of what happened. We were starting like, oh my gosh, like we like each other so much, and like we really think this is going to go somewhere. And it started to kind of like push our family aside a little bit, and then it started to become a little bit more. But because our family cares about us so much, we came back together, we like looked at the root cause, and we're like, okay, then we need to set boundaries, because clearly this is starting to like not go the right way. Like we want to make sure that we are focusing on our family first and focusing on God and making sure that he's the center of our relationship. And then that's when we started implementing the boundaries, which is really important when you start any relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you want to talk about the boundaries? How did you figure that out?
So as a teenager, it's really hard. And my dad has this famous quote. I don't know if any of you all heard it, but it's like being in a relationship and being around girls, or like being by yourself with a girl, or vice versa with a guy, is like a slippery egg going up a water slide. Like if you, yeah, it doesn't happen. Like you can try as much as you can, but it's going to go right to the bottom. You'll fail every time. So I really took that to heart, and even though like you mess up sometimes, like you can set those boundaries to be. Do you want me to say what our boundaries are?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Do you like when
it's
we
interesting.
when we first met, what the boundaries were, and then now like what?
Okay. So when we first met, it was always apparent how we just like, okay, we want to save, like first and for all, we want to save kissing for marriage, like, or like when you get engaged, or like for the end goal. Like that's going to be, kissing is for like the end goal. And when we hanging out and everything, we didn't really talk about much else. So we held hands, like hugged. I don't know if that's much of a boundary. But yeah, hugging, a big deal.
No, like before we started like dating, before we like realized that we wanted to marry each other, like that is what our that is the end goal, right? Marriage and ending up as one. We wanted to make sure that like our boundaries were like we weren't just like looking like we were dating to everyone else, because we were just friends at first, still getting to know each other. So like at first we were like no holding hands, like the side hug thing, and just like all these different things. Like also I love you. Like let me tell you guys, we overuse that word a lot. We say I love this chair, it's so comfortable. But like I love food. I really love food. But just saying that can really just make the word love minimize the meaning of it. And just being really like mindful of using that word. And like we were like, oh, I love you so much. Like I love you, I love you, I love you. And that can really minimize what the word love really means. And so I'm not saying like, anyway, no, you guys understand what I'm trying to say. We made sure that we weren't overusing the word I love.
you. You know what I mean? Like, we say I love you, but only if, like, we really, really mean it, and not just, like, throwing it out there. Because it can really mess with your heart sometimes. Because that's, like, a really, like, what's the word? Important thing to say. I guess that's, like, the biggest way I can say it. So that was also one of our boundaries. But then, like, now that we're a lot closer, like, I really do love him. And I don't just, like, say that, like, all the time. I try to say it when it's, like, you know, like, after we pray for each other, of course I love Isaiah. And just, like, other things like that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's one of our boundaries. That was, like, a couple of them.
So let me ask Claudia and Maddie, how did you handle it? I mean, 14 was very young, so you had a lot of years to be around her, and I know you guys were both in musical theater. You were often the star of every show, like looking in each other's eyes, singing to each other, like you kind of fall in love in those scenarios, right? How did you keep it pure, and what were your boundaries?
Let me tell you. So, first of all, it's one thing, like, as you guys are growing up, it's very hard to remain physically pure. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. God bless each and every one of you on your journey through life. Second of all,
even in as good as a, like, and I'll be honest, like, I genuinely and deeply love our relationship. Like,
Yeah. I'll be honest too.
I'll be honest too, yeah. It's true. Like, we do. We have a phenomenal relationship, and that's not to brag. That's just to, like, call a spade, man. But it is, even in, like, such a pure relationship and coming from such strong families, like,
because you can want to be pure. That can be your main goal. But then when you're A, attracted to somebody, and B, in love with somebody, it's like God's great challenge to you.
Yep.
It's so freaking hard. We had this purity contract, and we probably rewrote it and re-signed it with our parents like 7 times.
God bless.
In the course of the 2 years of us dating. And it was like, don't lay down on the couch together. Don't close the door if you're in a room together. Don't do this. And we were constantly messing up because it's very, and we were pure until we got married, I want to say, but it was like by the grace of God alone. I think to remain physically pure, it can't just be, I was homeschooled and I was raised in the church, so I have to be a virgin when I get married. Or God doesn't love me. No, it has to be like, you know what? I want this for myself. And to inspire you, I'll say that us having only been with just each other is so much fun. There's no baggage, there's no guilt, there's no memories, there's no like weirdness to it. Like, it's blissful. It's so pure. It's so fun. It feels so great. Like, I really feel like we've been rewarded by God for waiting. Where was I going with this? Oh, so you have to want it, like, actually in your heart and soul. It can't just be because your parents want you to. Second of all, you have to also, though, have your parents involved, because when you're dating and you still like live at home, they're your main accountability, because what's happening is under their roof and they're like still responsible for you before God. So our parents kind of took 2 different routes of like helping us along, where his side of the family was like super strict and was like, these are our rules for you and you can't not do what we don't tell you to do. And then my parents were like, how do you want us to help? Of course it's a struggle. You love each other. Tell us where you need us and we will guide you as your parents and we will help you. So it was, not to make my parents sound like so much better than your parents, something like that. Third of all, wait, did I only have 2 points?
I think your parents' classic line was, don't put your lips on someone else's wife, right? I think I learned that from your mother.
Your classic line was, are you ready to be a father? No, your dad's.
That was my dad's line, yeah.
Are you ready to be a father?
Yeah.
Wait, I had a third point and I can't remember. It
What
was,
does
you
Jeff
have
wanna
to want
say?
it, your parents have to be involved. Oh, the third thing is, it's really best for you to not be alone together. If you're dating and you're in a serious relationship and you're in love and you think that person's so hot, don't be alone together. Just don't. You will make your life much easier. Okay, yes, in the back.
Jeff. Yep.
Just for the record,
Uh-huh.
you got 1 contract, not 7.
And then what happens after that? Like, am I done? I'm dead? Okay.
I'm the 1 contract guy.
So,
One
I would
contract.
love to see if you guys have any questions about dating or relationships or staying pure or boundaries or anything like that. Now would be a great time to ask if you have a question.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Here we go. Zeke, my man Zeke.
What's going on, boss?
What's going on?
So, do you guys like find yourself during your whole course of talking? Do you find yourself like taking breaks, like because like things are going too fast? Or,
I have another story.
Why is this like an embarrassing story for you?
So, one time, very early in our relationship, because Claudio was so surprised, I think this is my perspective, to be so attracted to me and love me so much, he thought he was a little freaked out by it. And he was like, you know what? I think we should have a 7-week fast from each other. We shouldn't talk on the phone. You can't even come hang out with my friends. If I'm hanging out with my friends, we're not going to see each other. And then at the end of 49 days, we're just going to pick up where we left off. And I was like, no, we're not.
I was just full of good ideas.
No, but it was a good, that was a big reality check, because it just made us check ourselves and like how important we were to each other and how hard this was going to be that we didn't realize, because we grew up in a Christian and homeschooled community where we were like, oh, it'll be a struggle, but like, you can do it. And we were like, can we though?
I actually do want to say something.
Yeah.
Taking it a little further down the path. I don't even know if this is going to really answer your question at all, but just kind of thinking, because you're telling all these embarrassing stories. But no, I like genuinely and I know this is true for me, and you can say this is true for you, but like when you fit within God's design and, you know, man meets woman, right? It is not, you know, out of Genesis, God says it's not good for man to be alone. Let's create a helper that's suitable for him. I legitimately believe that when that union is found, a man reaches the best version of himself when he's with the person that he's supposed to do the rest of his life with. And it's kind of funny because we're like reflecting back and telling all these stories and all these things that I dreamed up, and I'm like, oh my God, I did that? What the heck? But like,
Did you actually take the break and do the 40
no.
Did you ever even take a week off? Or like
It was a couple days, I think. Yeah, but I mean, and I think like my logic on that was probably unfounded. I just thought like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest.
I think it was just more than we like.
Like it was so much, and we got into it so quick, and we were so serious.
Happy, and it almost felt wrong. Like, are you really supposed to like love somebody this much? But also, I think are you asking about taking a break? Like in what context?
No, you guys were answering it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. My final point was like when you get to the point where you're in that relationship that God has for you, I truly believe that like you reach the best version of yourself. And it's weird to say that like you change or you evolve, but like, I don't know. I believe that to be true. I mean, I don't know. I think Isaac can probably attest to that, right? Like the fact that we've changed and we've like grown and like, I mean, I guess that happens naturally in life. Like as you get older and you grow and you mature and you get wiser, but like, I don't know, there's so many things like in a relationship now that I so deeply appreciate. And
well, when you're with the person that God has for you, it's pretty easy. Like when you're really all about lifting each other up and serving each other and like being pure and true to one another, like
life is fun.
It's
easy.
It doesn't weigh you down. It doesn't make your life harder. Like you guys talked about like wanting to get like yourselves straight before getting together, but you're always getting yourself straight. You're never like, even in life, we never arrive. Like we're never like, now I'm the person I was always meant to be. Like, and in a relationship too, like I'm still like, man, I'm worse now than I was when I was 14. Like I'm way more immature. Like you're always working and growing. And then when you have the person that God's like, this is my best for you at your side, it's better and it's easier and you're supported and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what's been the biggest thing that has been a challenge in the marriage? And, is there a hand?
All right, so before I ask the question, I need you guys to be honest, because I don't know if we touched on this, but did you guys have sex before you got married?
No, we did not.
Okay, all right.
And what about
Yes, we kiss.
We kissed like once or twice.
once or twice?
Really?
Doesn't
No, that's not true. That is a gross under-exaggeration.
But after you engaged, or like, was there a boundary and you waited for that? Or?
So, man, can we tell this story? We kissed.
Wait. My question was going to be,
Okay.
did it, or like, did your physicalness and your upbringing being like, so, homeschooled.
Yeah.
Did it like kind of push the marriage a little bit, like push the getting married part?
Like, did we get married faster because we couldn't be physical?
No, like if you were physical first, was it like, all right, well, we should just probably
No.
pop the.
Like, make it. And this is another conversation for another time. So if anybody wants to know my hundreds of opinions about things, call me, we'll get coffee. But like when two people do have sex before they get married and then they like get pregnant and then their parents are like, well, you should get married because you have a baby together. Like, I don't know that that's like God's best plan, because it's two people who were really bad for each other and made a mistake. Right. And now they're forcing themselves to get married, and now they're raising up a baby in like a really crappy relationship where they never even really liked each other. They just like did it one time. So, but that's really not what you were asking. Sorry.
Side point, take that. Put it away.
But I don't know. What were we talking about?
What age did you guys get married?
We got married.
I was 21, and you were about to turn 21.
He turned 21 the month before we got married, and I turned 21 the month after. And we had been dating since we were 18.
Because right now I'm at a place where like I feel like I'm in love with this girl, and we've been going out for 2 years and all that. And I'm like, and I'm 18, about to turn 19, and she's 19 now.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm not wanting to get married young, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that to me sounds so young.
Yeah.
Like how do you know? Like,
honestly, it's the worst. When you're not married and people say this, you want to punch them in the face because it's so cliche, but when you know, you know. And that sounds so stupid until it happens to you.
Well, then, like, how do you know? Like, because I'm just like.
If you don't know, then it's not time.
There you go.
Not saying it's not her, but it's not time.
When in doubt, don't.
Because I knew him for 6 years before we got married. I knew him for 4 years before we started dating.
Right.
And then finally the Lord was like, Madison, if you want to have a good husband, somebody who loves me, who loves you, who loves his family, you know he works hard, you know he prayed with that one waiter from IHOP because he's such a nice freaking guy. He's passing out money to all the homeless people.
Come on with that. Yes. Amen. Hallelujah.
God was like, you need to date / marry Claudio. And I was like, I get it. And then I was in love with him and obsessed with him, and I still am. So like when it's A, God's time, B, God's person, all of a sudden you'll have this like lightning bolt moment, but don't worry about it till then. You're good.
Okay.
Just stay pure.
Any other questions?
Wait, so when did y'all kiss for us?
Was it a month in?
No, yeah. It was like a month after we started dating.
Yeah, it was early. But
You were 18.
Yeah, he was 19.
I was 19. Yeah.
But I think that kind of was a very real moment in our relationship, because that was when we found out that like people in our family expected that we wouldn't kiss until we were like at the altar. And a lot of people, they don't want to kiss until their wedding day, and that's awesome. And for me, I never wanted to do that. He was the first person that I ever kissed, and I was the first person that he ever kissed. But we knew pretty much like from the day we started dating, like this is like marriage or bust. So we still have.
Stop there, because that's really courting.
Yeah, it was courting. I call it dating because courting sounds like we're in the 1800s, but yeah, it was courting. It was courting. It was courting because it was It wasn't just for fun. It wasn't just because I liked him and he liked me. It was intentional. We had an end goal. Like, it was sheltered and there was accountability and there was people around it. But I wouldn't recommend kissing as early as we did, but that's what happened.
Did you guys, when you first kissed, did you guys make it a boundary to not?
Yes.
Yes, like immediately after.
Didn't last very long.
Yeah. Thus the seven iterations of the contract.
One contract.
7 amendments to the. Oh man, what's up, Hose? Here we go.
I'm sorry, just because I can answer like somewhere in between where you all are. So I'm first going to tell you like a story where I did a good. Well, I'm about to tell you a story where I did a good job, but I don't want to like keep pounding on my chest. So like I have like kissed a girl on the day that I met her. So it's like I'm like opposite of them. I know. Crazy, right? So it's not like I've done a great job, but what's crazy is each year when I come talk here, I like tell you all one day I'm going to come back like with a girlfriend or a fiance or a wife or something and get to tell you like my new perspective. I actually thought that was going to be this time because for the past month and a half, I've been dating someone. And wait for it. And she broke it off yesterday. So back on the market, yeah. But that's a story for another time. It broke off amicably. God is so good. He was actually, I felt like it wasn't working out. I was planning on calling her yesterday night and trying to talk through things, and she ended up texting me, which first of all, guys, girls, don't ever text, like period, just call, but definitely not to break up with somebody. But anyways, all that to say, at the beginning of our relationship, friendship, whatever it was, actually one of Claudio and I's good friends, Brandon, said, "Don't you dare kiss her." And I was like, dude, like I've already kissed girls, like I'm not like saving that for marriage, like I'm already feeling really strongly for this girl, like that's gonna be super hard. And he's like, yep, totally understand that, but if this is not the one for you, I don't want you or her, especially her, to have any more baggage than either of you already have. And that was just really good for me. And so he said to me, he said, you don't kiss her until you can tell her that you love her, and you don't tell her you love her until you're ready to tell her that you want her to be your wife. And I'm now, like, even though when he told me that, I'm like, that is total nonsense. There's no way that I'm going to not be able to kiss this girl. I didn't. And she broke it off yesterday. And I'm so thankful that I didn't, because then it would just be like, now for each of us, like the next time we're dating someone and that conversation comes up, it's going to be like, yeah, I actually, here's my list of like, here's who I've kissed before, or whatever the case may be. And so I had always asked the question, how far is too far? What can I do? How long do I have to wait? This, that, and the other. And finally someone asked me, how much blessing do you want to have? There's no like list of guidelines of like, this is how far, this is how long you should wait, this, that, whatever. But just how much blessing do you want to have? And if you want to have blessing, then you wait. Delayed gratification. So anyways.
Okay. Here we go. Go ahead. What's your name?
Katrina.
Katrina.
I have a question for like the worldly people and the worldly people's view. So if you are of the world, but you just like became a Christian and you learned like, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to do, but you already did it. Is there like a way of forgiving, like God forgiving you, you forgiving yourself and starting over?
Yeah.
Absolutely. What you choose to do now is entirely up to you. And I think I can leave it at that. Honestly. I mean, like you get to make the choice now on whether or not you want to do this thing that's difficult but amazing. Difficult but worth it.
Yeah. And in some ways that speaks more volumes because you've been there and you're saying, I don't want to do that anymore.
Absolutely.
That's not me anymore.
Yep.
Instead of saying, I've always been this way, you're taking that and you're doing a 180-degree turn with yourself, and you're truly repenting. And that's so valuable to God, is when we're really repentant. So
Probably more than where we come from, because we had it like we grew up in great families. These values were instilled in us from a young age, yada, 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 the whole deal. But to come from the other side of things where that's not the case, but you make that intentional decision to make it happen, I mean, that speaks volumes. I mean, I don't know.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was me. You know, I was married before my husband, and before I became a believer, like in my mid-20s, really walking with the Lord, with him on the throne, I was, raised Catholic, which really didn't do much for purity. And I knew one girl who got married a virgin from my high school, one. And not kissing and all that was like unheard of, which is why I'm so passionate about doing this for you guys tonight. Because I wish, had I been in the audience looking at this, I would have said, I want that. But I never saw that. I didn't even know it was real or that anyone did that. And so I didn't have that as a role model, but certainly becoming a believer and deciding I want that now, like as much as it can be. And that's what I have with Jeff. And it's so amazing because when we met, I told him this time when I get married, I don't even want to kiss till the altar. I want to stay pure. And a funny story, we met on a mission trip. At the end of the week, he said, we're going to spend the rest of our life together. And I was like, that sounds so crazy, but I think you're right. So he stayed longer, and he put me on a plane. It was like a movie, like you had to walk on the runway. It was this little tiny plane with the engines going. We're screaming, goodbye, goodbye. And I'm like thinking, this is really my husband, because God showed me on the trip he was, and I wanted him to kiss me goodbye. And I'm waiting for the kiss goodbye, and he's not kissing me. I'm getting like annoyed. And I'm screaming, I'm like over the engine, aren't you going to kiss me goodbye? He goes, no. I'm like, why? He goes, you said you don't want to be kissed. I literally said, I don't care. Forget what I said. Kiss me goodbye. He goes, no, never. It's my job to uphold your dream. And I was like, oh, like I could trust him with the rest of my life. It was amazing. So you want to have that kind of trust in a man, and a man that can keep you pure, you'll trust in your marriage. So there was another question, though. Yeah.
Did you guys go to college?
Yeah.
So, did you date during college? Or?
We got married in college.
Yes.
How was that?
Tough.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Yeah.
Not hard
It's
relationally, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I loved that stage of life, just like I love this stage of life. But
oh, it's okay. I'm loud.
Man, what can I say about this? I don't know. It was a lot of work. We were both either working part-time or full-time and, going to school.
It's not for everyone. For us, we're really nerdy and we were like, ooh, school. So we enjoyed being in school and being married and working really hard. There's a lot of people who it's a real struggle for them to finish college. So if that's your case, then, hold off until college is over or get through college faster or whatever. It was a lot of work, actual work, but it helped us, I think, get stronger and our relationship get stronger.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I have much more to add to that.
She had a question right there.
Go ahead.
He literally asked my question, not him, but he did.
Uh-huh.
Isaac did. How far is too far?
What does the Lord say?
Well, what does he say?
As far as your dad says.
Oh, man, as far as your dad says. Oh, boy.
To have sex before marriage, okay, if you really want to get black and white, to have sex before marriage is always too far. For some people, kissing before marriage is too far. For some people, kissing before marriage is not too far. What you really need to do, other than what God says is clearly wrong, which is sex before marriage, what you really need to do is ask yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Is it because it feels good in the moment? Is it because I am trying to prove myself to my friends? But when you give away, and we always like harp on physical purity, but emotional purity is just as important. And when you give yourself away to all these people, little parts of yourself, when you tell your secrets to people, when you kiss people, when you give your body to people, you're saying, you know what, I'm not valuable. You take some of me, you take some of me, you don't have to earn it. It's fine. You just take it. And that's not, God doesn't want that for you. Your parents don't want that for you. I don't know you that well, but I don't want that for you. You're worth more than that. And when you do something that's going to either devalue yourself or devalue other people, then that's too far. Whether it's physical, it can also just be emotional. It's too far. Sorry, I feel like I got really intense.
No, that was
You're
a
really
great
cute.
answer. What's that?
How did you deal with lust or temptation or those desires?
Man, how did we deal with that? 7 contracts?
Are you just asking about him, like guy's perspective?
Guy's perspective? Yeah. So when we started dating, I feel like it was easier to kind of stay, I don't know, have the blinders on. And it's still, like when you meet that person that's the right person, I feel like, all right, so I'm just going to get real. I have 0 social media. I don't have a web browser on my phone. I have things currently, yeah, like right now. I don't have, I have like stuff. So like whenever I'm on my computer, like anything that's questionable that I look up, she's going to get something on it. And I do that intentionally because I want to be above reproach. And I know that's a thing for guys. Like there's no getting around it. Like, and girls, too. But you have to be intentional about making that decision. It's not going to happen on its own or by accident. You have to be intentional about doing the right thing. And that's something that you decide on every day. Like you make that decision every day. Like, hey, I'm being confronted with this and I am going to, I don't know, I'm going to look to God first and make the decision not to do this. Absolutely.
And you're so in love and you're investing.
Yep. And it's not that's like, maybe I'm overstating this, but it's true. Like I put all the things in place so that's not even a question in my mind. Like it's not even something that like comes across my radar. And if it does, the things are in place. So it's not even like, again, it's not even in my mind. Am I getting to the heart of your question? Okay.
Before they were married, meaning like to stay pure.
To stay pure until marriage. 7 contracts. Man, how did we do? I mean, we knew that we wanted that, and I think that piece was kind of unshakable. Like we knew we were going to stay pure till marriage, and it was difficult, but like.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you want that more than you want, like, each other in the moment. But also have a lot of accountability. Like, our friends were, Isaac will say, we're, like, always on our backs. Like, guys, getting a little frisky. We were like, oh, yeah, sorry. And because we both lived at home
have
until
accountability. If not, it'll be, like, next to impossible. Like, it really will.
Just surround yourself with people. Don't be alone. If you can help it, don't be alone. If you still live at home, don't hang out if your parents aren't home, hang out with your friends and let your friends know, like, guys, this is what we want. Like, we don't want to kiss or we don't want to hold hands or we don't want to have sex before we get married. So if it seems like we're losing it a little bit, like, we give you permission to call us out on it.
Any other questions?
How do you know if you're like just attracted to someone or also have like feelings around them?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like I can answer that.
Yeah, you guys weren't asking us any questions, so I might as well take theirs. No, I can actually answer that because I think about that a lot. Cause like the one thing with me and Isaiah is we're both physical touch people, so like we're naturally attracted to each other like physically. But I think you know that you have feelings for them when you can have like those deep emotional conversations, like the really hard ones, the ones that like might bring you guys like to a conclusion that maybe you didn't want to like figure out, if that makes sense. Also, if you can picture them, or if you can say to yourself like, wow, like if he was actually really ugly, I would still love him because of his personality. And that right there is like, just, I'm not like, you know, like just, I sometimes think about that. I'm like, well, if he was really ugly, I would still love him because he's like the amazing person that, you know. Anyway, so that's like really important. I don't know. I think, does that answer your question? Does that make sense? Sort of. Is there anything else I can answer? Yeah? No? Okay. I can give it up to the married people, whatever.
Are there any other questions?
Got those questions that stump us.
Well, guys, I think it's been an amazing time talking with all of you guys, and we hope you come back another year. So give them all a